friends. This is Logan Jacob, and I have a special treat for you today. So at the end of my last video, I was talking about cordial and how cool that is, and I said I would never be able to release a patch for Mozaic because coding is not for me. And then a couple days later, I decided to make a patch for Mozaic. So that's what I'm here to show off today. It's a pretty simple patch. I wanted to solve a problem for my good friend Brandon Dorris, who goes by the YouTube name Coltranius. I'll have a link to his channel down in the description. You should definitely go check it out. He does a lot of really cool stuff with his saxophone and running an EWI into synthesizers and into AUM. Does a lot of really cool stuff that way, and he's really the one that introduced me to AUM and got me into all this stuff in the first place. So he definitely deserves some props there. So I decided that I wanted to help him out and see if I could just make a patch to do what he wanted. So he likes to jam with having particles and collider controlling two different synthesizers, and he wanted a way to be able to change the key and the root easily on both devices at the same time. So I thought about it, and I tried using Rozeta scalar to see if I could control them that way with some kind of MIDI input, CC input, and I couldn't figure out how to control the root and the scale with CC. And if somebody knows how to do that, please let me know in the comments, because I am interested in that. So instead, I started digging around and seeing what I could find for Mozaic. And it turns out there was a Mozaic patch called Simple Scalar that I had messed with. It's that basically does the same thing Rozeta scalar does. It transposes everything, creates, make sure that all of your notes are in the right key. And I decided I wanted to make a patch that would control that, so I could have multiple instances of Simple Scalar and have one patch that controls all of them. So that's exactly what I did, and you saw a little bit of that in the intro video that I just played. And now I'm going to walk you through the setup. So I have been told that you guys like it when I kind of start from scratch so you can see the whole process. So the only thing I have going is my voice, which is in channel 1 here. It's coming from my Tascam 4x4. I have an MXL 990 plugged into that. I like to have a little bit of reverb on my voice, so I've got that in there as well. And then I've got my master channel, which is going to be Mix Bus A, and that has Final Touch running, and I'll show you Final Touch here. If you've never used this in inter-app audio mode, it's a really nice little mastering software, compressor, all that good stuff. So I've got that going here. And so let's go back to AUM. So now I'm going to create a couple of synth tracks and create an instance, a couple instances of Mozaic running Simple Scalar, and then run my new patch into them. So we're going to make a couple of audio channels, and then we're going to need a MIDI channel for each of the audio channels. It's a little bit weird using the mouse whenever I've been using the touch screen for so long, but that is all right. I know it's nice to be able to see where I'm going and what I'm clicking on. And then I'm going to go ahead and make one more separate MIDI channel. I don't technically need all these. I can put all the MIDI stuff together and it'll work just fine, but I want to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to try to leave this set up like this so you can only see what's going on in the synthesizers. So for my first synth in the little intro video that you saw, I was using the Moog Model 15, one of the first synth apps that I bought. I absolutely love it. I have a patch in here that I made that I call Mellow Pluck. I took one of the preset keys patches and made a few minor adjustments, and it sounds pretty cool. So it's a nice reverby sound. A little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb. And I didn't put any effects on this because I was just doing it to demo. So usually I would load up, Cosmonaut and then Bleach reverb and all that stuff, but didn't need to do that. So I'm going to go with that's not what I want. I'm going to go with Rozeta Particles going into this one. And I'm going to send particles into Rozeta arpeggio. And then I'm going to send those into simple scalar. Now, I know that particles and arpeggio will transpose into the correct scale anyway, but I want to be able to control the scalar, and I'm talking and not thinking, so I just clicked on the wrong thing. I'm so used to making fugues now. There's Mozaic. Okay, so particles is going to go into arpeggio, and then arpeggio is going to go into Mozaic, and then Mozaic is going to go into the Moog Model 15. I don't need the keyboard anymore. So why is this mad? Probably because I don't have anything loaded into it. So we're going to go to load and user patches, and I'm going to go down to the simple scalar. And I'll post a link to the patch for that in the description down there so you can see it. Now, to be able to control everything, first off, let's figure out why we're not getting audio, because the particles should be going. Okay, so Mozaic. Oh, that's why it's messed up, because I'm dumb. Now we should start getting, because particles kind of runs on its own. There it is. All right, we'll turn that off to the MIDI trig for now. I'm also going to crank the gate length on there so that the arpeggio will play with it a little bit. And increase the density. We'll have a little bit of fun. There we go. We'll come back to that in a minute. So now everything is being sent into the arpeggio and going from there. So even though I have C minor selected here, and I can actually turn it to chromatic and it won't make a difference, it's going to automatically scale it into whatever key. And that's just how simple scalar works. I like simple scalar because it shows you the note that's being played and how it's being transposed. Let's add just a little bit of setup here. I'm going to change my tempo to 72, make this a little bit more of a... slow down the arpeggio a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to run that into my master channel, which I'm then going to duck out a little bit so that you can hear my voice over the top of it. Okay, so that is working. We can see that any of the notes that are going into it are being transposed into C major in this case, because that's what I have going. And if I change that, then it'll start giving us whatever I go to. I slowed it down too much. So now we're in D major. So what just happened is something you have to be careful with. You can end up with stuck notes. And the way to avoid getting stuck notes is to make your changes in between notes. If you try to make a change while a note's going, you're going to end up with a stuck note, and that's no fun. You can fix that by just ejecting the, just pulling it out of the chain for a second and dropping it back in, and it'll unfreeze the note there. Hopefully that won't happen too much for you. Okay, so that's going to be kind of our arpeggio thing that we can jam over, and then I'm going to get the Moog Model D to create a bass line, because why would you not use Moog Model D to create a bass line? It just sounds so very good. And I can't remember what preset I used. So I'll just pick a different one. Oh, it was Ultra Sub, I believe, but I brought the some of the octaves up so it wasn't quite so bassy. Okay, so going into the Model D, we're going to have Collider, and then another instance of Simple Scalar. So we can grab Mozaic, load in our Simple Scalar, and there it is. So we'll start with these together. I'm going to do C minor because that's just a good starting point on both of those, and I'll show you how it changes once we get them all in there. Okay, now we're going to send Collider into that instance of Mozaic. Nope. It's going to read from Collider. There we go. And then we're going to send Mozaic into the Model D. Okay, so I'm just going to, actually it'd probably be easier just to mute. The particles is ejected anyway, so I don't need to mute it. Okay, so we're going to go chromatic, and I like to increase the grid size a little bit, make the gate 1 bar, add a few hedrons, and then we'll turn this on. Synthesizer. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So now it's time to do the fun thing. This is why you're all here. So we're going to go to Mozaic, and we're going to load in my Simple Scalar controller. And I've got a set of instructions here that are going to take you through everything that you need to know to get it set up. All of the CCs that I use. Now, of course, if you're comfortable with the code and you want to change what CCs it's sending out, absolutely, that's perfectly fine. But know that this is only designed to control Simple Scalar. It's not designed to be its own standalone quantizer. So I'm specifically sending it into these two instances of Simple Scalar. Now, to do that takes a little bit of setup. I could not come up with a way to automatically have it control those parameters if I just send it directly in. So instead, I'm sending it into AUM's MIDI control, which is fantastic, and then controlling it from there. So Mozaic 6.1 is going to go into the MIDI control. And then I've got to do my setup over here. Okay, so I've got on MIDI 3 is my particles scalar. It doesn't really matter which order you go in, they're the same. So I'm going to go for MIDI 3 and go down to Mozaic. Now I need to control these 4 knobs. So the instructions that I give have you start with knob 0, which is this knob here, as receiving from CC10. And then we're going to go knob 1, receiving from CC12. knob 2 receiving from 14, and knob 3 receiving from 16. And like I said, if you want to go into the code and change what it's controlling there, that's perfectly fine. It's just a matter of swapping out numbers here. So here I've got it sending the correct CC onto whatever channel. So it's actually CC10. I didn't change the notes over here. Okay, and then 12 there. And then down here, it shows that those knobs are affecting 10, 12, 14, and 16. And if you'd like more clarification on that, I'll be happy to show you at a later date. So now I can double check. It should only be controlling this one. So when I grab this knob, it rotates through. Okay. When I grab this scale knob, it rotates through. Now I have it set to where the default is major instead of being chromatic by default, because that's what the simple scalar defaults to. So I set mine to do the same thing. So let me go ahead and get it set up to do this one as well, and then I'll show you what all these handy pads do. So all we have to do is go down to our other instance of Mozaic in the simple scalar and just do the same thing. Knob 0, CC10. Knob 1, CC12. Knob 2, CC14. And knob 3, CC16. Okay, so now this should be controlling both instances at the same time. So as I move my root, you can see that the knobs on both of those instances of Mozaic start moving. And that's what Brandon wanted to be able to do. He wanted to be able to control both of them together. Now there may be an easier way to do this. I may have reinvented a wheel here, and that's perfectly fine. I would love for you to tell me what the easier way is, but this kind of worked for me. And the way that I envisioned it is I wanted to be able to select a pad to change the root automatically, so that when I'm jamming along, I can just grab the pad pretty quickly in between licks and be able to have the synthesizers go into a new key. Now it defaults to 16 pads. There's only 12 chromatic notes, so I was also able to add 4 more pads for our common scales. So the way that these pads work is that they automatically set the, sorry, trying to get this over to regular minor. There we go. I have it set to where it automatically adjusts the root knob in the other two. So if I hit the D, you see that both of the roots automatically change to D. If I hit E, it goes to E, F, G, A, B, B flat, C sharp, D flat, whatever you want to do, it automatically shifts them. And also, these buttons do the same thing with the scale knob. So if I hit major, it automatically makes it major. If I hit minor, it automatically makes it minor. If I want to go major pentatonic or minor pentatonic, it does the same thing. So I'll set them both to minor for now. And then you do have access through the knobs to be able to control the style, the nearest thing, and then the original channel if you need to. I don't worry about those very much. I just am concerned about changing my key. So now whenever I tell it to go, it'll go through what I want it to. Now, one thing that is that I haven't figured out yet is that Brandon likes to have collider set to minor pentatonic for the bass line, because pentatonic scale works a little bit better for this kind of bass line, and that's perfectly fine. It just means that you can't shift from major to minor. Okay, so I'll demo that real quick. I'll turn everything on to get collider going. So here our bass line is. Let me duck this out just a little bit more so that you can hear me. And then I'll drag particles in. So we're cruising along in C minor. And let's say I want to go up to the 4th. having fun in minor, and now I want to cruise along into F major. Let's go up to the major 4. So now we're in F major. Now what you may notice about this, we got stuck. There we go. What you may notice about this is that it's not actually transposing it. It's not taking it up a certain interval. It's actually just changing the notes of the scale that's being used. So if the first note is an F that Collider's putting out, it's going to stay in F. And when we go to F major, it's just going to change the E flats to E naturals and the A flats to A naturals. So if you're going from, C minor to F minor, there's only one note different there. All we're doing is going from, I'll visualize that for you, is going from having 3 flats with E flat, A flat, and B flat to going to 4 flats by adding in D flat. So it's a very subtle change whenever you hear it, and I like that. I like that it can kind of gradually, subtly move as opposed to the sharp. We can tell that it's jumped all of a sudden up a whole 4th or up a whole 5th. I prefer the subtlety there. Probably would be easier just to control the transpose knob, which I think you can do in scalar. You can control that in the Rozeta scalar. You can control that with CC, but that's not what I was looking to do. And I don't think that's what Brandon was looking to do. He hasn't told me otherwise yet. So that's it. It's a pretty simple little patch. It is available on Patch Storage. You can search for my name or search for Simple Scalar Controller, and you'll be able to find it. I'll also put a link to it in the description, along with a link to the original Simple Scalar patch and a link to Brandon's YouTube channel so you can check out all the cool stuff that he has done. Thank you guys so much for listening. I've been getting some great comments about these videos. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate it. And anything that you want to see me do, I would love to check some stuff out and demo stuff for you. Just let me know in the comments. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. Do all the YouTube stuff, and I'll get back to you soon. Have a good one.